Good evening, everyone. This is Shrija. I welcome you all to this session on Workplace English Fundamentals. Now, all of you must be from different domains of your careers, such as AI, cloud, robotics, data science, etc. And you must be at different stages of your careers. Some of you might just be starting up at your recent careers after graduation, while some already may be having some work experience beforehand. But no matter what or where you are in your present life, on your career, one skill that will always remain critical is what we call communication. So, in this session, I will and we all will just not be learning about textbook English, but about the practical workspace English, the kind you use in real meetings, in presentations, in client calls, and even in casual team conversations. By the end of the session, I hope you all will be able to be better prepared to communicate clearly, confidently, and professionally in a global environment. Now, before we dive into the details, let me set the stage for why we are all here. Communication in the workplace is no longer just about speaking English, it's about how clearly, confidently, and professionally we all use it. So now, I will be proceeding towards the section of introduction for this particular module where I will be walking you all through why workplace English has become so important in today's global environment and what challenges many of us face when using it in professional settings. So, to start off, English today is just not a language, it is the global language of business and technology. Whether you are just working with a client in Europe, collaborating with a partner maybe in the US, or simply be presenting within your own organization or company, English is the medium that connects people across countries, industries, and cultures. In workplaces, communication is just not a soft skill anymore. It is now a core skill. The way you speak, write, or present yourself directly impacts how others perceive you. You might just be having an excellent technical knowledge, but unless you can express it clearly, your value may not be fully recognized. That's why workspace communication shapes careers. A very simple example to give it to you all. Imagine there are two candidates in a meeting. Both of them are having equally strong ideas, but one explains the idea clearly with confidence, while the other struggles with an unclear language. Who do you think will be remembered? Who do you think will be trusted with bigger responsibilities next time? Of course, it's the one who has a good communication skill. It's almost always the one who has communicated better in the meeting. So now, here's the reality. Challenges exist for all of us. Some of us struggle with pronunciation, some with limited vocabulary, and many with finding the right tone, when to be formal and when to keep it casual. And it's just not freshers. It also applies equally to the experienced professionals. So that's where this session comes in. We all would be going to be focusing on three key fundamentals, which are pronunciation and accent neutralization, vocabulary building, and striking the right tools. So, before I move forward, let me just share a quick quote with you, which I have found very powerful. The art of communication is the language of leadership. Who said this quote, you might think? It was said by James Hume. Who was this person? He was a very famous speechwriter who wrote speeches for the US presidential candidates. Just think about that for a moment. What does this mean? It means leadership does not come from authority, position, or technical expertise. It also comes from your ability to communicate and connect. Moving forward, Let me just give you a quick brief idea about what we would be touching onto this particular session. First of all, we would be going through pronunciation and accent neutralization. Let me tell you all, this isn't about erasing anyone's accent. It's just about ensuring clarity so that your message is understood globally without confusion. The second point that we be talking about in this session is vocabulary building. In this, we would be exploring how to use the right words in professional contexts, especially in workplaces where both business and technical discussions happen. And third, last but not the least, formal versus informal language. What are we going to discuss in this? In this, we all will be discussing when to use the professional, polished English in reports, presentations, or emails, and when it is okay to be using a more casual tone with the colleagues. Together, these three areas will help us build communication skills that not only supports our technical expertise, but also makes a person more effective and confident in their day-to-day workplace interactions. So, let's now move into our first major focus area, that is pronunciation and accent neutralization. Let me tell you all, this is one of the most underestimated skills in the workplace. But in reality, how we pronounce words and this can completely change how others understand us, trust us, and even respond to us. Now, since this is a big topic, I have broken it down into smaller sections so that we can look at it step by step. We will first start off with why pronunciation matters. So let's begin with the very first question. Why do you think pronunciation matters so much in the workspace? In any workspace, especially in multinational organizations, communication isn't just about what you say, but how clearly you say it. Even a small mispronunciation can lead to confusion, mistakes, and sometimes even lost opportunities. Pronunciation has become especially critical in today's fast world pace or also in the remote work environments where much of our communication happens only over through the phone or video calls. For example, if you are explaining a report or maybe giving instructions and by chance your speech isn't clear, the listener might just misinterpret and need you to repeat. This can definitely affect your credibility or your efficiency and can lead to you getting disqualified or terminated from your job space. Let's just see about other examples. Let's just think about some numbers. For example, if you say 14, but to the other person or the listener, it sounds like 40. That can completely change a project's requirement. Imagine telling your manager, we need 14 servers, but people hear it at 40 servers. That's just not a small error, might I say. It can cost lakhs or crores and can cause organizational losses. Or even such as like mispronouncing a client's name, like calling Michael as Michelle, can give the impression to the client that we didn't care enough to get their name even right. And in businesses, even small details like this matters a lot. So now that we have seen that pronunciation directly affects workplace clarity, professionalism, and even company reputation. But often, when we talk about improving pronunciation, people get nervous about the word accent neutralization. So, let's just first clear up what this really means. Accent neutralization. When we talk about accent neutralization, many people think it means losing their Indian identity or sounding fake, maybe like an American or a British person. But that's not the case. Accent neutralization just doesn't mean trying to speak like a native English speaker. It just simply means reducing the strong regional inflections that might make it hard for the others or for the clients to understand us. Accent neutralization is a simple term which just means to making your speech clear and neutral enough so that anyone, wherever they are from, US, Europe, Japan, or maybe from a different part of India, and you may have communication gap in that, can understand you without any difficulty. For example, in India, if we take an example for what exactly accent neutralization does, in India we often stress words differently. We may say development, but globally, people expect to hear the development. The stress is mainly on the DE part. Or to go through an easier example, we as Indians or certain regions of India, people say order instead of order. The correct pronunciation is ORDER, is order, not order. So these aren't wrong when you are speaking in casual conversation between peers or your friends, but in global terms, it's safer to stick to the widely understood pronunciation. So the key point in this particular slide is you don't need to erase your accent, just need to polish it so that your message doesn't get lost. I hope it's clear. So moving on further, how can we since we went through pronunciation and how it affects the workspace and also what accent neutralization is, we might think like what exactly are the challenges we as Indians might face during English pronunciations. Moving further, so let's look at some few common pronunciation challenges that many Indian professionals face. Let me tell you, these are not just mistakes to be feeling bad about. These are just simply habits picked up from our common local languages. First, introducing with the first subpoint in this slide, which is the sound confusion. V versus the W. What exactly am I talking about in this particular subplot? This just means most of the times when we spell the word wine, the one which has the V in it, and the W wine, which has the W starting word in it, we tend to overlap these two pronunciations. So, how can you practice it? When you speak the V sounding wine, you need to make sure your teeth is touching your lips and there's a vibrating little sound. But when you use the W sounded wine, make sure your mouth turns into a circle space so that the word comes out clear. Moving on to the next bullet point, which is silent letters. We often pronounce letters that should be silent. Like, for example, the DEBT, depth, is not like most of us Indians pronounce this word as depth, but the correct pronunciation for this word is det. The B in this particular word is silent. Same goes with the second word, receipt. The RECEIPT in this particular word, the P word is silent. So the correct pronunciation is receipt. Next point is the overuse of filler words. We Indians do have a tendency to overuse words such as actually, basically, maybe, only. This just proves that we are nervous and we do not have a clarity while we are giving team ideas during a meeting. Well, even though these are not pronunciation errors exactly, but they definitely do be reducing professionalism. Coming to the final bullet point for this particular slide, which is the over formal or stiff delivery. Well, sometimes when we try too hard to sound professional, sorry, our language becomes unnatural, maybe almost way too robotic. This can create distance instead of connection. Even in meetings, over formal delivery can sound unnatural. Let me show you the difference about it. There are two people. Just hear it first. The person one says, "Good morning, esteemed colleagues. I'm humbly present before you to elucidate in the process of our current project." And the second person says, "Good morning, everyone. I would like to quickly update you on where we are with the project." Repeating these two sentences one again, the person one says, "Good morning, esteemed colleagues. I am humbly present before you to elucidate the process of our current project." But the second person says, "Good morning, everyone. I would like to quickly update you all on where we are currently with our project." Do you see the difference in here? The first person's voice sounds distant, almost like a speech, and like some person who is in bot is speaking, while the second person sounds professional, and approachable, the way we colleagues usually communicate in the workspace. So, the key to the key to solve this pronunciation error is to stay polite and clear, but not overly formal. Now that we have seen how such challenges occur when we go through this Indian English pronunciation, let's also go through some practical techniques that we can apply to get better in our communication. Number one, which is saying slow down and enunciate properly. What does this mean exactly? Slowing down. Most of us speak too fast in English. Maybe we are nervous, or maybe we just have a habit of speaking fast so that all of our ideas get conveyed to the front person. But it is a lesson that one must take that the faster we speak, the more unclear we become. Listen and imitate. Well, if you ask me what was or what is my best tip for improving myself, is when I watch TED Talks or when I see anchors on news channels, try to inculcate the words that they say and the way they pronounce certain words into my day to day dictionary. Third one is my most favorite one, recording yourself and self reviewing. I think this is the most accessible and the most easiest way to improve your communication skill is by recording yourself. And while you record yourself while you speak English and then pause it and play it back, you can see the problems or the issues or maybe the pronunciations that might have been difficult. Most of the time, a lot of people realize their own unclear words when they are able to hear the words themselves when they hear it through a recorder. Fortunately, in today's world, we do have access to excellent tools for self practice. For example, tools such as Google Docs voice typing is a simple way in which we can test our speech clarity. In this, the tool, once it misinterprets your word, your in this particular tool, once the tool is misinterpreting a word, that means your pronunciation needs adjusting. Also, there's an app known as Elsa Speak Use AI. What is this? This app uses AI to give personalized feedback on your pronunciation, and they are designed specifically for non-native speakers of English. So, just 10 minutes, giving your time of 10 minutes a day for these tools or in improving your communication skill daily can lead to a significant improvement over time. So, moving on to the next concept, organizational perspective. Well, let's look how pronunciation just not affects you as an individual, but also it becomes an organizational loss. Or if your pronunciation is good, how it can help the organization build its strength. We definitely all know that clear pronunciation saves time. It reduces the misunderstandings and avoids the rework between the clients and the teammates. In company, rework means wasted time, wasted money, and frustrated clients. For example, let me show you one example. If there is a project update which has been misheard in a meeting, it can cause the wrong actions to be taken by the entire team. A sales pitch misunderstood by a client could definitely result in losing the contract. And as for leaders, unclear pronunciation may lead to a loss of trust. If people can't follow what you're saying, they may not follow your instructions either. So, when we work on pronunciation, it's just not for ourselves, it's for the efficiency and the reputation of the entire organization. So, everyone, this particular slide perfectly captures the role of pronunciation in workplace communication. If you look at the top two images, you would be noticing confusion. People are puzzled. They don't quite get what's being said. This is exactly what exactly happens when pronunciation is unclear. Your message may be correct in your head, but if it doesn't reach the listener or the client the way you intended, then it can result in severe. For example, if you say, for example, if you say a word called ship the file, but when you pronounce it, the SH sounds like CH, that is, chip the file. The whole meaning of this particular statement changes and it can leave the listener confused. Now, if you look at the bottom two images, you can notice collaboration, mutual understanding, and confidence. This is exactly what happens when the pronunciation of a person is clear and your ideas are getting connected smoothly with your audience. From an organization's perspective, this difference is critical. Misunderstandings in global teams can cost time, money, and even client trust. But clarity builds credibility and shows professionalism. Think of pronunciation like a GPS voice in your car. If the GPS voice is muffled or just mispronounces the street names, you get frustrated, right? And you might just end up taking a wrong turn. But if the voice of the speaker is clear and easy to follow, you will reach your destination smoothly. Similarly, at work, pronunciation is like guiding others to your ideas. If it's clear, people follow. If it's confusing, they get lost. So, what we all saw in this is how pronunciation can either create confusion or clarity. At the workspace, clarity isn't just about how we say things, it's also about what words we choose. Even with perfect pronunciation, if we use the wrong words, too much jargon, or words that don't fit the context, a message still won't land effectively. That's why our next focus area is vocabulary building, how we use the right words at the right time so that we sound confident, professional, and clear across different workspace situations. Vocabulary building. Vocabulary is the backbone of communication. In workspace, it's just not about knowing English. It's also about knowing the right words at the right time. So, what do you think would be the importance of vocabulary? If you have a limited vocabulary, it can make you sound uncertain, even if you understand the topic well, or you might have a strong idea in your head. For instance, if you're giving feedback and you just say, like, this is bad, it sounds blunt. But if you say, like, this approach may not be effective, let's try an alternative, it sounds professional. For example, if there's a salesperson who is telling a client, we will do it fast, exactly what are they talking about? This is unclear, right? But if we say it like, we will deliver the first draft of the project by Friday, end of the day, inspires confidence. So, strong vocabulary helps you express ideas precisely, avoid misunderstandings, and builds credibility in every interaction. So, now that we have understood why vocabulary is important and that is the building block of clear communication, but there lies a question while we handle the concept of vocabulary. What kind of vocabulary do we be needing at work? Let's look at the mix of business vocabulary and some technical terms that are commonly used in a workspace. Workspace vocabulary can be divided into three categories: business terms, technical terms, and workspace idioms. In business terms, they are universal words across every domain and industry. Words such as deadlines, stakeholders, deliverables, exclamations are used everywhere from banking to IT to manufacturing. For example, if there's a person who says that we need to escalate this issue to the management, it just means that we need to raise the issue to the higher authority, not to make it worse. Why do I say so, not to make it worse? Because escalate means, in general terms, escalate means going or making a certain stuff more difficult. So, but when we use these business terms, like we need to escalate the issue, it just means that we need to forward this issue to the other parties. Next, technical terms. Well, these all terms mainly depends on the fields that you all come across. For example, in AI/ML, you all might be hearing terms such as training data, algorithm, cloud deployment. But even in the technical domains, it is necessary to explain terms simply when we are talking to non-technical people. For example, when you say our model overfit the data to a client, instead of saying this, you can say our system performed well in training but it struggled with the new data. Last but not the least, workspace idioms. Common informal phrases like the let's touch base, which means let's connect or discuss, or keep me in the loop means keep me updated about the further stuff that's happening. These can make your language sound more natural in a global workspace. Understanding and using these three layers of vocabulary can make you adaptable across teams and audiences. These words and terms not only help us sound professional, but also knowledgeable. But here's a catch. If we use too many of these words, or if the other person doesn't understand them, the communication bridge breaks. That brings us to our next point: avoiding jargon overload. Now, while vocabulary is a powerful tool, there's also a danger in it: overusing jargon. You may ask, what is exactly jargon? Jargon is an industry specific term or language which can alienate or confuse people who are outside your field when you use the certain terms. For example, in the finance sector, people say we will amortize this expense. What is this exactly? Any person who does not belong to the finance sector might get confused. So, if you are a manager, you can instead say that we will spread the expense over time. In IT, let's take an example in the IT sector. In IT, when a manager says, or when a technical from a person from the technical team says, the server went down due to the DNS propagation delay. It might be accurate in the IT terms, but when you tell it to a non technical manager, it gets confusing. How will that person understand what exactly is a DNS propagation delay? So, a clearer way to say that would be our website was temporarily available due to network updates. So, the key to adapt your language is according to your audience. Using technical words when necessary not definitely helps to build rapport with your but always try to explain them in simple terms when talking to clients, cross-functional teams, or freshers. This balance shows not only knowledge but also communication maturity. Moving on to the next slide, which says, how can you build your vocabulary on a day to day basis? Vocabulary building is not a one time activity, it is an habit. So, here are some ways that I have listed in the ways one can enhance their vocabulary and grow it daily. Number one, read business articles. Articles, newsletters, and annual reports expose a person towards the professional language. Making a note and practicing it. Try to keep a journal or a diary. So, whenever you hear or read a new word, you can jot it down and look up into its meaning and try to use it in a sentence. Context in a language matters. What does it mean? Just don't memorize the words that you are able to gather. If, for example, if you learned the word recently, like mitigate, try to use it in a sentence like, we need to mitigate the risk of the project instead of just remembering its meaning. Because, as we all know, practice makes a person perfect. So, until unless you practice or just use it on a day-to-day sentence or any in any professional setting, you will not be able to enhance your vocabulary. Learn synonyms, I would suggest. For example, instead of always using a single word like saying like good, you can use synonyms. You can search out for Google or go through other sites and see out for its synonyms. Its alternatives like effective, reliable, successful. What do these synonyms do? These synonyms give you flexibility and help you avoid repetition in any speech or in any meeting you might be in. So, everyone, daily practice just not helps us individually while we are trying to have our vocabulary built, but could you tell me what does it mean for a larger organization? So, that's my final point here. The organizational perspective on vocabulary building. Strong vocabulary just doesn't benefit the individuals, it also benefits the organizations. If you ask me how, number one, I would say it enhances the client relationships. When the employees use the right words, the clients feel confident that they are dealing with professionals. Internal collaborations. Teamwork works better when communication between the team members is clear and concise. Having a good vocabulary also reduces misinterpretation. Ambiguous language can cause costly errors. A simply misused word in an email could change the entire meaning of that whole idea or the whole email. And finally, it reflects professionalism. Every conversation, email, or report represents the organization's brand. For example, if there is an HR professional who's explaining company policies to the new hires, if they use vague words or jargons, employees may misunderstand the rules. But clear, precise vocabulary makes these policies easy to follow and understand, and finally builds the trust. So far, we have looked at how vocabulary empowers us to say the right words at the right time. But communication isn't just about words we know, it's also about how we use them depending on the situation. So, that brings us today to our final subtopic, which is formal versus informal language, where we will be exploring when to use the formal tone in emails and reports and when a relaxed tone is fine with colleagues. Number one being, why do you think the tone or the language in a particular language matters? Language is just not about sentences or vocabulary, it's also about tone. A simple message can feel respectful, casual, or even rude depending on how it has been said. For example, if a manager writes, "Send me the report," it sounds commanding, right? But could you please send me the report by 5 p.m.? Just a simple please in the sentence makes it sound polite and professional. Imagine emailing a client, "We will do it soon." That sounds so vague. But when you draft it in a professional way and state that we would be sharing the first draft of the project with you by Wednesday, it sounds formal, precise, and reassuring. In workspace communication, tone shapes up the perception, and the wrong tone can create misunderstanding or even conflict. If in a workspace you try to say any idea with a higher pitch, a person can predict or think that, "oh my gosh, this person has such a bad temper," and might just reject the company. So, just having a difference in a little bit of difference in tone can provide you huge losses. So, tone really sets up the stage of how a message is being received. First, let's just look at what formal language is, which is mainly used in professional contexts. What is formal language? Formal language is the professional style which is mainly used in business communication. It's polite and respectful. Like, we use words such as appreciation, like, "I appreciate your input in this manner." It sounds so polite and respectful. It's precise. It does not give you much data or information about something which is not has been asked. For example, if you need to send a client or a certain candidate about when is the deadline of the project, you can just write, "the project deadline is September 15th." But one thing that we must make sure in formal languages, one should avoid slang, abbreviations, and casual filters. We most of the time while we write emails, we tend to use certain jargons or short form of words like ASAP. But we must, while we are handling or we are in a professional setting, we must say, "please try to send the project report at the earliest convenience, not ASAP." So, what can we conclude from this slide? Formal language ensures clarity, professionalism, and respect. That's how formal communication works. But the workplace isn't just about formal settings, right? We also need to know how to use informal language, especially with colleagues and when you are in casual discussions. So, what exactly is an informal language? Informal language is more relaxed and friendly. It's mainly used when you have a personal connection or a casual setting. In this particular setting, we can use words such as can't, won't, let's catch up, and also little short out terms such as ASAP. For example, when you are in a casual setting with your teammate, you can say like, "Hey, can we chat about the client deck after lunch?" But please make sure informal tone doesn't mean careless. It's still respectful. It's just warmer and easier in tone. So, everyone, while formal language is for professionalism, informal language helps build the rapport and the comfort among colleagues. So, you might just ask, at what situations can a person use the formal language or an informal language? When you are handling clients or higher management, or when you are in an interview, or while you have to submit or need to talk to a person while submitting official documents, you need to use the formal language. For example, if there's a person who says, or a candidate or a team member who needs to talk to the team manager, that to have a I would like to request an extension for the project. This particular statement is what you call a formal tone. In formal language, it mainly works with friends at work, team chats, or quick messages. For example, if you need to communicate with a team member about the deadline of a project, you can say, "Hey, can we just push the deadline by the day?" The golden rule in which you can understand when or when not to use formal or informal language is to match the audience and the context. Think of it as dressing up for work. You wouldn't be wearing a suit to a team picnic, right? Neither would you wear shorts to a boardroom meeting. Similarly, you need to adapt your tone to the situation. Now, knowing when to use which particular language, now that we know when to use which particular language, we can move forward and see what are the common mistakes which people commit even while they have good knowledge of formal versus informal language. Some common mistakes that happen when people don't balance the tone properly are being too informal with the clients. For example, if a team member writes to a client, "Hey dude, got your file, we'll check it later." It sounds so unprofessional, right? But if we write it in this way, like, "Thank you for sharing the document, I will be reviewing it and be getting back to you tomorrow." Isn't that sound such a good way of informing or communicating with the client? In the same way, using slangs or shortcuts in official mails can create a huge blunder or losses in the organization. Phrases such as BTW, LOL, or ASAP are fine when you use WhatsApp messages, but not when you use business mails. Mixing tones in a message. What does this exactly mean? Most of us use this only. Like, if we need to write person or to our manager or to our senior, like, "Dear sir, what's up? Hope you're doing great." But it is such a mix and mash of formal versus informal. How? Formal is how you address people with the "dear" subtitle. But "what's up? How hope you are doing great" are an informal tone in which a person should not be talking in a professional setting. So, these were some of the frequent errors a person commits in a professional setting. But why does this all matter at a company level, you might think, right? So, that's where now we will be looking at the organizational perspective on using the right tone. From an organizational perspective, The way employees communicate with each other or with the clients represents the company itself. When an employee communicates with the client, formal communication builds trust and credibility. Within teams, informal communication strengthens the relationship and the teamwork between the teammates. So, this balanced form of communication reflects a strong company culture, which is a professional yet an approachable setting. For example, if there is a tech company which is pitching to an international client, they must be using polished formal language. But when the company is with their creative team and brainstorming the ideas, informal style of communication encourages open ideas and helps build the team rapport. Both of these styles are valuable in different settings in an organization. This particular slide perfectly captures the essence of formal and informal communication in the workplace. If you look at your left side of the slide, you could see two groups of colleagues in a casual setting, chatting over coffee or having a relaxed discussion. This represents the informal language. It's friendly, it's warm, and it's easygoing. You might hear phrases in an informal setting like, "Hey, great job on the presentation," or "Let's catch up after lunch." Informal communication not only helps build the rapport, but also helps to build the comfort and the teamwork between the teammates. It's what makes the workplace relationship stronger. Now, moving on. If you look at on the right side of the slide, you could see a more structured meeting. Data on the screen, laptops open, people be presenting ideas. This is what represents formal communication. It's polite, it's precise, and professional. In this setting, you might be using phrases such as, "Based on this data, I recommend," or such as like, "I would like to request your input on this matter." This particular style is mainly used in client meetings, official reports, or presentations to the senior management. Now, the important point is neither one of the settings is better than the other. Both formal and informal styles have their own space and place. Think of it choosing what to wear. Like, you won't be wearing a suit to a team picnic, right? So, the takeaway here is quite simple. You need to adapt your language to your audience and to the situation that you're presently in. That flexibility is what makes a person a truly effective communicator in any organization. Now that we have explored all the three pillars of workspace English fundamentals, such as, like, first, we saw how pronunciation and accent neutralization ensures clarity so that our ideas are understood. After that, we looked at the vocabulary building, which gives us the right words to sound confident and professional. And finally, we explored formal versus informal language, which helps us adapt to the tone to different situation and audiences. Putting together all these three concepts, these three skills form the foundation of effective workspace communication. They decide not just how well we express ourselves, but also how well we are perceived by our colleagues, clients, and readers. So, to conclude, let's bring all the three areas that we discussed together now. First of all, clear speech builds the trust and avoids confusion among clients and teammates. If people don't understand us, our ideas lose value, no matter how good they are. Second, the right words make a communication impactful. Strong vocabulary gives us confidence and ensures our message sounds professional. Third, the right tone matters. Adapting formal or informal language to the context is extremely necessary. Just like dressing appropriately for different occasions, our communication style must also fit the situation. So, as we come to the end of this session, let's remember the core message. Workspace English is just not about grammar or fancy words. It's about clarity, confidence, and professionalism. So, concluding with the subpoints that we discussed throughout the session, Workspace English is about clarity, confidence, and professionalism. This applies to both the freshers and the people who are experienced professionals. Clear communication helps a person build strong team network. It also positions as someone who can be trusted with strong responsibilities and future leaderships. Well, when we say that communication just not applies to freshers or the experienced professionals, what does it exactly mean? Even though you have been an experienced professional for 5 to 6 years, there can be jargons or there can be slip ups that you can face on a day to day basis. But here's the good news, you don't need to make giant changes overnight. Even small improvements, such as pronouncing a word correctly or replacing a vague word with a precise one, or just adjusting your tone in an email can, over time, create a big impact on your career. So, I would like to conclude this session and like to leave you with the thought. Effective communication turns ideas into impact. It's just not enough to have ideas. What matters is how well you communicate them. That's what shapes a career. As you all take a step into or continue the journey in your corporate world, please remember that your technical skills will definitely be giving you opportunities, but your communication skills will help you sustain and grow in them. So, thank you all for being such a patient and an attentive audience today. So, let's wrapping up all the topics that we discussed.